Their tale ended tragically, marking the conclusion of an epic journey that would echo through mountaineering history for years to come. On May 20th, 1998, Francis Di Stefano Arseniev and Sergei Arseniev bid farewell to their loved ones. Their goodbyes carried an air of adventure, excitement, and perhaps a touch of apprehension. These were seasoned mountaineers who had conquered some of the planet's toughest peaks, yet their final ascent of Mount Everest would prove their most perilous. They embarked on Everest without supplemental oxygen, an audacious and daring choice, attempted by few before them. But ultimately, it would cost them everything. Everest, notorious for claiming lives, would not release them. Here is the tale of these fearless climbers and lovers whose passion led them to confront the world's most daunting peaks, only to meet a heartbreaking fate on its unforgiving slopes. Francis Arseniev was drawn to the mountains in the thrill of climbing from a young age. When she was just 6 years old, her father took her to the Colorado mountains, and from that moment on, she was hooked. Her passion for climbing led her to many adventures, from the Annapurna summit to Everest, her final and tragic climb. Along with her Russian husband, Sergei Arseniev, she conquered several other mountains like Peak Goodwill, Denali's West Buttress, and Elbrus. Sergei was born in Russia in 1959 and moved to the United States in 1990, eventually settling in Colorado. He was a skilled and experienced high-altitude climber, known as the Snow Leopard for climbing Russia's 5 highest peaks. In 1992, he summited Mount Everest, becoming one of the few Russians to achieve this. Sergei had also climbed all the Russian peaks above 7,000 meters and completed a traverse of all 3 tops of Kangchenjunga, a feat accomplished by only a select few. One of his most impressive achievements was climbing Annapurna without supplemental oxygen and summiting via the North Face in alpine style. It was in Annapurna in 1991 that he met Francis, and they fell deeply in love. The following year, they married and had a son named Paul. Their shared passion for climbing was a bond stronger than any other. Francis often joined her husband on various expeditions, such as Denali's West Buttress in Elbrus. Though not a professional mountaineer, she became the first American woman to ski down Elbrus and climb its east and west peaks. But their love for the mountains would ultimately lead them to a tragic end. The cold, unforgiving heights of Everest became their final resting place, forever sealing their fate among the icy peaks they so loved. Their story serves as a haunting reminder of the dangers that lurk in the high snowy mountains. Driven by her immense passion and unwavering confidence, Francis Arseniev aimed to become the first woman to conquer Mount Everest without using supplemental oxygen. On May 20th, 1998, she and her husband Sergei set out on their expedition together to make history. Their journey was fraught with challenges. Powerful winds forced them to delay their ascent multiple times, prolonging their stay on the mountain. By May 18th, they had reached 7,700 meters, and the next day they climbed to 8,200 meters, settling at Camp 6. But on May 20th, as they began the next stage of their climb, heavy snowfall greeted them. Camp 6, perched at around 8,200 meters, was a critical point in their climb and the last stop before the final push to the summit. Reports say that the couple lost their headlamps during the climb from Camp 6. They tried to continue on May 21st, but had to retreat after climbing only 100 meters. Staying at Camp 6 longer than expected was extremely dangerous. Exhausted and without oxygen, their ability to make rational decisions was impaired. The situation grew more unstable by the hour. Despite these setbacks, they finally reached the peak on their 3rd attempt on May 22nd, 1998. After spending nearly 3 days above 8,000 meters in rough weather, the couple became separated while descending. Sergei made it back to camp, but Francis became stranded. At around 9:35 a.m., at 8,450 meters, Sergei encountered a team from Uzbekistan. When they asked about his wife, he seemed confused and asked, "Where is my wife? Hasn't she come down?" Desperate, Sergei set out to find her, carrying oxygen and medicine. The next day, the Uzbek team, climbing towards the peak, found Francis in a semi-conscious state. Her body was deprived of oxygen, and she had severe frostbite. Despite her desperate pleas for help, the team couldn't assist her due to their own lack of oxygen. Francis begged them not to leave her, repeatedly saying she was an American. Sadly, they were unable to save her. They carried her body a short distance up the mountain before leaving her there. The high, icy peaks of Everest claimed their lives, turning their dream into a nightmare. Their story remains a chilling reminder of the mountain's unforgiving nature. They say on their way down, the team encountered Sergei, who was desperately trying to reach Frances. The next day, the Uzbek team returned to find Frances's body exactly where they had left her, with a rope and ice axe nearby, signs that Sergei had reached her and hurried off for help. But the chilling tale didn't end there. Reports tell of Frances being discovered alive the following day, May 24, 1998, by two South African climbers. As Ian Woodall and Kathy O'Dowd ascended towards the peak, they stumbled upon what appeared to be a frozen body clad in a purple jacket. Kathy O'Dowd, shocked, noted that Frances seemed to have a broken spine. She described finding the climber lying face down, tethered to a rope, limbs hanging unnaturally. O'Dowd cautiously approached, realizing it was a woman. Frances's hands were swollen, and attempts to move her were futile. She felt as heavy as lifeless stone. As they approached the person in the purple jacket to offer help, Ian Woodall and Kathy O'Dowd were shocked to recognize Frances Arsentiev, whom they had shared tea with at base camp. O'Dowd recalled their friendly conversation where Arsentiev spoke fondly of her family and home, not appearing obsessed with climbing. But now Frances's body was mangled by frostbite, her skin frozen stiff and pale, like wax. O'Dowd likened her to Sleeping Beauty, a grim nickname that stuck in the media's headlines. Tragically, Frances lay there half-conscious, as if in a deep, unbreakable sleep. The Uzbek climbers, who had tried to help her the day before, arrived, but sadly, they explained her condition was hopeless. Despite spending over an hour in freezing temperatures of -30 degrees Celsius, Kathy and her team reluctantly decided they couldn't bring Frances back to base camp. They left her alone on the mountain, haunted by the choice they had to make. Ultimately, Kathy and the team also abandoned their climb. Even seasoned climbers like Woodall and O'Dowd were forced to abandon Arsentiev due to the hazardous conditions, prioritizing their own safety. While some may perceive the decision to leave Frances behind as heartless, it was practical, as it was simply impossible to carry her down the mountain without risking further harm. Ian and Kathy were devastated by the experience, which they claimed continued to haunt them. It meant that both of their bodies were still left on the mountain, enveloped in mystery and hidden in the icy depths of Everest. But this mystery was partially resolved the next year, as in 1999, Jake Norton, a member of the Mallory and Irvine expedition, discovered Sergei's body lower on the mountain face. It appeared that he had fallen while attempting to rescue his wife. His death became the testament to a mountaineer's love. But while pictures of Frances's body were circulating online, her body still wasn't found. Ian Woodall was haunted by the tragic image of Frances Arsentiev lying frozen and alone on the mountain. Compelled to give her a more dignified burial, Woodall led an expedition in 2007 called the Tao of Everest. His mission was to bury the bodies of Frances Arsentiev and an unidentified climber known as Green Boots, who were visible from the nearby climbing route. Woodall and his team found Frances's body. In a solemn and respectful ritual, they wrapped her in an American flag and moved her to a new location away from the public eye. And with that, the tragic story of Frances Di Stefano Arsentiev and Sergei Arsentiev came to an end. If you want more stories like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Leave a comment with your thoughts or suggestions for future videos. Until next time.